Good evening, and thank you for joining us. As you see on your screen, we have a couple of survey questions up. If you don't mind taking a minute or so to fill out any of the survey questions, we'd like some of your feedback if possible, and then we'll get started with the presentation. Really quick, we are going to play a brief video. I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone so that we can listen in. Good evening and welcome to our Keeler University webinar. Tonight, we'll be talking about the Olleyes VisuALL, virtual reality perimeter, and more. My name is Shane Breen, and I am the Training and Events Manager for Keeler USA and head of Keeler University, the education platform for Keeler. First, I wanted to thank you all for joining us this evening, especially in this COVID-19 climate, and just wanted to thank you for keeping our eyes safe and healthy throughout all of these challenges that are facing us all. During the webinar, for any questions or comments, please use the chat at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You'll notice a question mark, blue question mark. Please select that for any questions, and that will highlight your questions so our speakers can answer them at the end of the presentation. Keeler is very excited with our partnership with Olleyes and bringing everybody the great virtual reality testing platform that has so many applications and will have more applications in the future. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Alberto Gonzalez, the founder and CEO of Olleyes. Alberto, thank you for coming tonight and all of the great work you've done with the VisuALL. Could you please tell us about it?
Thank you very much, Shane. It is a pleasure, having you guys tonight. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. And we're gonna try to be as fast and short, so you can direct your attention to probably more funny show.
I don't know that Alberto, the dancing was great. We can go back to the video again.
So my name is Alberto, and I'm proud to lead a group of awesome people that are creating great technology to help patients and doctors to improve the quality of eye care. What we're trying to bring is nothing but a little grain of sand to improve the eye care by making the testing process more efficient, automated, comfortable. And to do that, we have different channels. We can do it. We can improve it at the office. We can improve the efficiency of the doctor at the offices by making it a test faster, more comfortable, less stressful. But also we can improve the whole system by bringing the system to remote areas, whether home, whether retail clinics, battlefield, anywhere. By that, then we can, at the end of the day, have a better productivity for the doctor, but also decrease the cost of the care so more people have access to it. The VisuALL have two main models, the VisuALL S and the VisuALL H. The S is the standard unit for the in-office testing platform, and the H, it's for remote assessment. One of them, of course, the more emblematic is home. The VRP, virtual reality platform, it's divided in three main components. We have the clouds where everything is, all the information is stored, all the algorithm runs over it, and we have also all the analytics. The web app is the tool that the doctor will use to interact with the system, to prescribe the test, to read the report, to print the report, to send it to the EMR, everything using that web application. And the headset or goggles, it's the part of the system that the patient interact with. The way it works is the doctor, logging into their accounts and using the interface that we have, they can order the test. Even if it happens within the office, it's still a cloud-based system, and that allows to add unlimited amount of units for the remote assessment of the visual function now, in the future, very likely also the structure. We did our first validation at Wills Eye Hospital, and the study was published in the Journal of Glaucoma. We have been very lucky to count with the help of the best scientists like Dr. Myers, Dr. Katz, Blumenstein, and many others, scientists that we call it also friends. During this study, we found no difference at all between the behavior of the results that we're having and the age, and compare, of course, with the standard of care, in this case, Humphrey. We're also doing other studies to compare with the octopus, which are, as you know, the two most common visual field tests in the field. We had a very good sensitivity and a very good classification capability to differentiate between healthy and glaucoma patients. No difference, no significant difference, a little bit above, but not significant difference actually with the Humphrey. But even when we removed the patients, the moderate patients, and only analyzed the mild patients against healthy, the sensitivity remained very high and comparable with the Humphrey. The correlation with the Humphrey, and not only in the mean sensitivity, but also the quadrant sensitivity endpoint was very, very good, very excellent. And also the agreement was very, as you can see, we had like a very, very narrow confidence interval. We keep adding and we keep improving the science behind our platform. Our goal is to include many other modules to the same platform, so all the doctors can use it, that single, for different purposes. We are also expanding the usability from glaucoma to other markets and to other diseases. We're very interested on the evaluation of kids, and for that we're lucky to work with the team at the Vanderbilt Eye Institute. We developed a game-like visual field test that, even though it still uses the standard parameters, like the same background, the same Goldman 3 stimulus, we embed some gaming processors to keep the attention of the kids. The results were really good. We submitted already that to the APOS for presentation next year, and hopefully we're going to have it available for you very soon. We're also looking into the neuro-ophthalmic side of it and how we can evaluate patients with the same platform. And very important, we have already in place a multi-center study for the home evaluation. We did a feasibility study. The results were excellent. We're currently writing the manuscript, and hopefully, again, you're going to have it soon. And that the results were very good and encourage us to expand the home project. I'm very lucky to share the night with, share the presentation with
The night.
Dr. Paul Blumenstein. Thank you very much, Mark, for being with us tonight. Mark is the director of the Laser Eye Center in Scottsdale, Arizona, professor of the university. And thank you very much. Please.
Thanks, Alberto. You know, it's interesting. I was listening to some of the things you were saying, and when you said that this is like a grain of sand, and am I getting feedback too?
A little bit.
Yeah, hopefully not too much. When you talked about a grain of sand, to me, this is something that I feel that when you bring it into your practice, it's going to turn into a pearl. I just wanted to say that. So something that we've done in our practice. So, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be involved utilizing the VisuALL. And the interesting thing is that when I was first introduced to this, I was home on quarantine. And I don't know about any of you, but there's a pandemic going on out there. Here in Arizona, our new motto is come to Zona for the Rona. And so we lived up to that for quite a while there. And when we decided we could open back up safely, I had already been talking with the team over at Olleyes, and I was really excited about the notion of how we can change the way we practice. And, you know, I hate the term the new normal because, you know, for years people always would say to me, you're not normal. So it's offensive. But I think if we think about just how this disease that is basically a world phenomenon, it's a once in a lifetime event, it changes the way we look at how we treat our patients, because we still have to. I mean, we're still frontline clinicians, and more importantly, when we look at eye care and, you know, maintaining the quality of our patients' vision, it's so important, especially now when you think about the vast majority of what our patients are doing is really more visual than anything else. You know, they're spending way more time on the computers, way more time doing things that we're doing right now, as opposed to, you know, other activities that they might be doing. I always think it's kind of trivial when patients say to me, well, you know, my eyes are important to me. And I'm like, yeah, they're not important to me. But the reality is that we saw this just dramatic drop in the amount of patients that we were seeing, you know, and the percentage change in visits from baseline, you know, in the week of April 15th. I mean, you could just look at these graphs here, and all of us experienced that, I mean, across the country. And I think we're all kind of digging out of that a little bit. In our practice, we've been fortunate, but at the same time, we're still seeing less patients. And the reason why we're seeing less patients is because we're spreading them out. We're not trying to, you know, create a super spreader event at our office. We need time to be able to go in and clean the equipment. We need time to make sure that we're disinfecting between patients. And at the same time, too, we want to maximize the opportunities that our patients are there, but we also started thinking about maximizing the time our patients aren't there. And so to me, what changed is this notion of telehealth. Now, in my practice, I have a digital phoropter, and the phoropter actually can be linked via, very similarly to what Alberto said, to the cloud, where we could almost do a remote refraction. I could actually have a patient sitting in the chair. I could be somewhere else, and I could actually do the phoropter while I'm gone. And when you think about tests or challenges that we have from the telehealth, is how do you evaluate somebody with glaucoma? I mean, how are we managing this chronic, disease state? And more importantly, how can we bring patients in or not bring them in and still provide them with a very safe and efficacious way of evaluating something as important as like a visual field? So in our practice, we started doing the telehealth visits. We saw a lot more of those. Patients were a little skeptical, but they were also less skeptical about coming in. And I think all of us across the country have realized that telehealth has its limitations. They're great to be able to confer and talk with patients, but the reality is that we can only do so much. So one of the things that the VisuALL did for me, good English, when I got my hands on it, I brought it into the bedroom where my wife was watching, I think, something on TV because, why not? What else are we supposed to be doing? And I said, hey, do you want to try this out for me? And she goes, what is it? It looks really cool. And I said, it's a visual field test. Now, for those of you who practice like me, I mean, my spouse was always my guinea pig. She was always the person that I would literally practice on, like I did gonioscopy on her back in the day, and I think I forgot to put an anesthetic in, so she's never forgiven me for that. But you know what? Hey, it's called practice. So I asked her to put it on, and without any instructions, without any real kind of experience, she was my first patient, and literally went through this in about 12 minutes. And I said, what are you doing? She said, it's done. And she goes, that was really cool. She goes, this is that same visual field test that you had me do years ago? And I said, yeah. She goes, oh, I like this way better. She was laying in her bed, never got up, put the thing on her forehead. And it was just, to me, this is something I had to bring into the office. The exciting thing about this is that, from a personal experience, when I walked into the lane to our practice back in May, I think when we came back and started seeing patients, actually it might have been mid-April, we actually had a visual field scheduled on the very first day we came back. We had, I think, 9 patients, and he was in there. And I looked at him and I said, I'm glad you're here today. And I said, I'd like to have you try and experience something that's relatively new. And he goes, you know what? I love new technology. This person is 78 years old. And I said, you're the man for me. Sat him in the chair, put it on top of him. We walked through it, took a couple minutes. When it was done, I said, so what did you think? He said, you know what? He goes, I don't see how I could ever go back to doing that other visual field again. And I said, exactly. And part of the reason what was exciting for me is I started thinking about all of the possibilities. I had a patient who did not want to come into the practice. She was steadfast about not wanting to be seen. We needed to basically give her a refill on her prescription. She had moderate to severe glaucoma. She was concerned about it. I said, I will meet you in the parking lot. And what I did is I walked out there in the parking lot, and I brought a tono pen with me. Now, the VisuALL also has Land.Cs. So I could check her vision in her car. I checked her pressure using my tono pen, and then I had her do a visual field with the windows turned up, her sitting in her car. She never left her car. We did an intermediate exam. We did a Humphrey visual, well, not a Humphrey visual field. We did comparable to a Humphrey visual field without ever walking out of the room, without ever coming into the room. I've done them in my waiting room. I've had patients sitting in the chair. To me, the exciting thing about this is that it opens up just the vast opportunities that we all have. And what I mean by that is that we know things are changing. To be able to have somebody who is having, who's a Plaquenil patient. I had a patient yesterday, I was telling Alberto, I had a patient who has Plaquenil. Well, they have significant rheumatoid arthritis. It was very hard for them to get up and to get down. I told them I needed to bring them back to do a 10-2, and she's like, another visit, it's really hard for me to get here. I said, you know what, stay right here. My staff went in, and within a matter of 15 minutes, we did a 10-2 on this patient. This is somebody we've tried to do an OCT on, and she just, because of the rigidity of her neck, she couldn't do it. So it just, again, opens up opportunities for kids who are having challenges, sitting straight or maintaining that fixation we want. Here's a game. I mean, it's a wand, you're playing it. It's ridiculous. We also have the opportunity to do color vision testing, whether it be the isochromatic or the D15. And as I said, that this is a platform that I foresee us being able to do a lot more of our primary tests, so that literally you could have a patient sitting in a room that's not a lane, or basically even maybe even before they come into the practice, you could have them do some of these things at home if they had the VisuALL home before they come in, to save time while they're sitting there. Now, some of you are probably questioning, well, so you do this and like, what's it look like? It looks exactly like what we're accustomed to. It has a grayscale. It has our pattern deviation, our total deviation. You see, the false positives and the false negatives that our patients are going through. That very first patient that I told you that I did, I thought there was something wrong with it, because there was a significant amount of change from the last time the patient had a visual field. And so I brought him back and I repeated it, and it was validated. And in fact, the pressure had gone up. This person had a Drans hemorrhage. So it was really, significantly correlated to what I was seeing. And it made me a believer in using this technology. We talk about cleaning the equipment. We talk about, showing our patients that we're in advanced practice using new technology. There's nothing more advanced than, using something like virtual reality to do a test that our patients have been accustomed to for as long as they've been diagnosed with this disease state. I had another patient, I mean, I can just go on talking about patients, but I had another patient where she was sitting in the lane, and she watched one of my technicians pick up a piece of equipment, and she didn't see them put alcohol on there. And she asked me, she goes, do you sterilize all your equipment? And I said, what's really nice about that is a lot of the stuff we do is handheld. I said, so you actually will watch us physically clean it, as opposed to taking somebody and picking them up and bringing somewhere else. I think when we look at, monetary or, monetizing this is no different. This is a visual field test. So whether you're doing a 92081 or a 92283 color test or a 92082 perimetry, you are going to be reimbursed at the exact same fee schedule as you would if you were doing a Humphrey or an Octopus or any other test. And in fact, there's reimbursement for doing remote physiological monitoring, or these RPM codes, which, as much as I want to sit here and talk about, the virtues of helping patients and getting an efficacious and reproducible result, the reality is you also are running a practice and you have to generate revenue for your practice. So when we start looking at an RPM code, we can actually use this to physically monitor treatment services. So you actually have codes that you'll be able to reimburse by, if let's say you go to somebody's house and do this. That's something that we've talked about in the practice, is setting up a visual field schedule where the patient never comes to us, where we just basically go to them. And it just, again, opens up just, all kinds of ideas about how we can change the way we've been practicing, and especially something as simple as a visual field. I mentioned that thing about the digital phoropter. Well, we've been using a phoropter, the same phoropter, for 100 years. And it's comfortable, it's easy. And when you get a digital one, you realize that it's like, what? It's a lot has changed, and we have to change. We have to kind of grow with the changes. And I think this is a perfect segue into inviting, technology into your practice. Put together a little video here. So I'm going to mute my computer so you can watch this.
So we're going to do a visual field test. We're going to do a little bit different. We're just going to do right here to here in the office. So, alright. So we're going to take this. This is going to go over your head. Great. Get it all set up.
So, kind of a little graphic representation. That patient was so sweet because I wanted to do the visual field, and I said, "But would you mind if I picked you up and showed you what it would be like to do the other test?" She goes, "Oh, the one that's down the hall." She goes, "Oh, okay." She goes, "I hate going to do that test." I said, "I know, we can just show it on the camera." But she was really sweet. I mean, the reality is that we all experience this. How much time, extra time that we go through. So, Alberto, hopefully you're on the line here, because this is, for me, it's automated, comfortable, the disinfectable, accurate, everything that's written on the slide here. For me, the biggest thing that it's done for us is just enabled us to expand how we do the visual fields, but we're doing more of them. I mean, we're literally doing more field tests because the patient's sitting there, and we don't have to worry about the extra time and the staff's time that it takes to do this. So I want to thank you.
Pleasure. What you're saying, it's very true. And this is just everything related to moving the patient to another room and setting up the test. One of the advantage of the headset is that once you put the headset in your head, right? It doesn't matter. First of all, the patient can be seated comfortably. Then during the test, you don't have to be static. You can move and you can change your position. And it doesn't matter where do you move your head. The relationship between the stimulator and the eye remain constant, which is one of the reasons why the technician has to be with the patient during the entire test on the traditional method. With this, the technician can multitask. They grab the tablet, phone, whatever is using to see how the test is happening, and they can go and do something else in the meantime, or having more than one patient being tested at a time. So there are different ways really to improve your efficiency in the office, not even counting going home. So just in the office is already a huge step forward in terms of the efficiency without compromising.
You brought up a good point too. I mean, one of the things that for us is literally we can put it on, talk to the patient, and nobody's standing there. When we used to do the Humphreys, the staff would moan and complain, and I don't want to do it. But the other thing too that I don't think I mentioned, and you may have, but both eyes are being tested at the exact same time. And patients don't realize that. And I think that's another reason why it goes so much faster is I have had patients take it off and say, well, can I take a break before I do the other eye? And I'm like, there is no other eye. We're done. They're like, this is it? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. It is more physiologic, right? I've done visual fields by myself, and I'm when I patch that eye, it's not comfortable and it's not physiologic. And one of the problem that we see is that when you start with the right eye and when you go to the left, now you're testing an eye that is in disadvantage to the first one because you're really tired. Because here it's happening at the same time, both eyes are exposed to the same level of stress or same level of tiring that you have. So it is definitely, in our opinion, a much physiologic way to test our patients, and that's why we believe it's getting so spread out.
Good. So there's some questions that have come through here, Alberto.
Yeah.
And here they come.
How well does it work in children? Well, actually, as I mentioned before, this is one of the area that we would like to work very hard on it, because as you know, kids, they don't have a special way to do the test. It's like an adult, which is not, I would say, it is not really the right way to do it, because they're complete different. Like the difference in age create a different level of attention, etc. So you need to create an environment that is engaging for the kids. For example, one of the patents we have is that it's sort of like a game. The kid have to move a spacecraft within the scenario. And the fact that we have several sensors in the handpiece, we can tell whether the kids saw the stimulus, and also whether it's true that the kid actually saw the stimulus. So it is a very, very, very interesting approach. The results were excellent. The 95% of the kids prefer, of course, the method, the new method. We are planning to do sort of like levels, right, in order to make it even more like a real game, but always keeping the same background. So the challenge is how, without changing the paradigm, right, of testing the visual field, we can make it that engaging. But we have been fortunate to have a great team to develop a great product. And as soon as we get the results from as soon as it's accepted the abstract, we're gonna distribute among all our friends. We have the most common one. We have the 24, the 10, the 30-2. We are currently trying to develop the 60-30. But what we're trying to doing is it's build up the amount of tests based on frequency of usability, right? If the demand drives everything. So we focus first on the one that we're used the most. So currently 10, 30, and 24. That's a very good point. And on that we cannot do it. So during the test, or at the beginning of the test, there's a process we call calibration. And basically what we do is we test whether there is a good binocularity, right? If there is, the parallelism is okay, then we continue in the binocular fashion. But if we notice that there is a convergence insufficiency or a latent or any tropia, then what we do is we switch into a monocular test. Still no need to patch, but what we do is we shut down one of the screen and we stimulate only one eye at a time. There's a septum, of course, that prevent the mixed stimulation. Also, there was a very good question. One of the advantage also of that binocular test is that even if you have one eye with a zero, like a very deep absolute scotoma in the fovea and the macula, still you can get a high quality perimetry on that eye because the other eye serves as a fixation method. So this is one of also a great advantage, and that we have seen, especially in the retina diseases, right? Like macular degeneration or any other maculopathies. Correct. That's also part of the stimulus. We have two models. We have a model with eye tracking and without eye tracking. The one that we are selling the most at this point is the one without eye tracking, because the first version that we had requires some like cables. But yes, so basically what we do is that if the fixation, if there is a some kind of change in the position of the eye of the case, then instead of stopping the test, what we do is we readjust the stimulation matrix and then we stimulate. But it's different, and then probably it is worth it to make the clarification. It is not the what is called gaze based perimetry, like you show here and then you look and then you show here and then you look. No, one of the goal that we have and one of the principle is that we want to keep as much as we can the standard perimetry, especially the Y-on-Y perimetry, which have shown to be the best one, even better than frequency doubling technology. That it might be good for early detection, but as you know, already shown not to be superior to Y-on-Y for progression analysis. So we're trying to keep as much as we can the standard stimulation and the standard fixation. What we're doing is trying to do it in a way that it is more comfortable for the patient and don't have to stop because of loss of fixation. The way it works is still the doctor controls the frequency of testing and the kind of testing that the patient will do. Unfortunately, most of the patients, and this is something that we unfortunately learn, is that most of the patients are not high enough educated or educated enough to understand that there are variabilities on the test. And we don't want a patient, freaking out because, it shows a different than calling 2 a.m. Mark, hey, I found out I had something change in my, not necessary. So still the doctor controls the frequency and the kind of test the patient can do.
I think the question is that if I have my own virtual reality headset at home, can I just get?
No.
Yeah.
No.
See, I was like, no.
Sorry, I didn't understand that question.
Yeah.
So part of there have been different approaches to do a massive testing, right? And in our opinion, the problem with these approaches is the lack of standardization. So you need to be able to deliver always the same stimulation, right? Because if you cannot be persistent on your hardware, capabilities, if you cannot persistent on the way you deliver the test, then you would never know whether the way you're stimulating a patient A is the same like you are stimulating patient B. So standardization is still very important, and the only way to do that is if we provide the entire system.
Can they wear progressives during the test?
Yes. We actually, during our trial, that was one of the goals. How the progressive lenses can affect the test. And there is, of course, an effect on the test. But what we found is that it's not significant enough to change the overall value. As you know, during the test processing, there are different algorithms that looked into the interpolation of value between locations, and we believe that this plus the way it is designed and the way we present the stimulus, it doesn't affect significantly the results. Having said that, most of the progressive, the difference is like between 1-2 diopters. We, for example, do not recommend at all bifocal or trifocal, because that, first of all, the change might be even greater, but also the step, right, and the age of the change on the prescription can definitely affect the test. How long is the test? Very interesting question. That we have different protocols. We have fast protocol. We have similar to CETA standard. Our goal is going home, right? At the end of the day, the main goal of our project is to have every single patient with glaucoma or macular diseases or any disease that is necessary, that requires regular and frequent testing of visual function, to have their own test, which means on their own devices, which means that the now trying to make the test shorter or very, very, very short is not a priority. So we are looking, we're not expending time on develop super fast strategies. Our goal is to find that tune, which is usually what the CETA standard or even the I think it's G2 what used the octopus protocol. CETA fast. I like a lot top strategy, but we're trying not to sacrifice quality over time, because where we're going, the time won't be important. And by time, I mean, of course, a CETA standard or something like that. So that's the strategy behind. We have also we're currently developing in collaboration with the scientists at Wilson Hospital new method for stimulation, but that's for later. I hope that answers the question.
Well, can I say from my clinical experience, I'd say about a 24-2 on average takes less than 15 minutes for both eyes. So usually
you're referring to, just to make sure, you're referring from the patient sitting down and the patient
yes,
going out.
the whole thing. Yeah, I
No,
mean,
no,
sitting down,
might be.
putting in their information, them calibrating it, and I know there's another question about calibrating coming up. When the patient sits down, it goes through a list and tells them, can you click the button and aim it at a certain place? And then it says, can you see the red light? Yes. So it's very intuitive. And as it's doing that, it's calibrating the machine for the test. That probably takes 2 or 3 minutes of that 10 to 15 minutes that I just told you. And my staff's not even sitting there. They literally will come back and say, how's it going? You're doing all right? Yeah, we're doing good, And I'm like, why are you moving the wand all over? Because that's the other thing too, is that you literally can just hold it in your hand and click it. But I watch patients, they look like Harry Potter. It's pretty exciting, woo. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Alberto, but the answer to this question is yes, it just has this self-calibrating each time they do it.
Correct. But also one of the advantage of the home model is that we're going to have the opportunity to increase the amount of data. As you know, we already have evidence that the greater the frequency of testing visual fields, the earlier we can detect any progression. That this is a fact. The problem is that we're very limited, right? What you can do at the office. You cannot bring the patient every month. But at home, this is one of the advantages. We are going to significantly increase the amount of data that allow us to make some analysis and run some, this is part of the smart algorithms, to clean up the data, and only remains what is actual function, what is actually sensitivity. And that will allow us, like the evidence says, to detect early changes on the patient's sensitivity.
I think something else too, Alberto, is that on the tablet, we can actually watch what the patient is actually seeing inside there. And that to me is always another little bit more comforting too, is that I'll have that on a computer, so I could be in my office, they could be doing the test, and I can see literally what they're clicking on.
Yeah, that's nice. Very important, especially because there are still patients that are very old and old enough for not to understand the tutorials that we have, and or old enough with, let's say, some kind of motor issues that don't allow them to coordinate to click on a specific part of the screen. So what this feature allowed is that you can tell in which step of the calibration or in which step of the tutorial the patient has been stuck, right? And then you can come and you can help them, and the technician can even command the test from outside the headset just by looking at the tablet and looking how everything is happening. So that synchronization, what we call visual stream, it is very useful, like you said, for helping in this specific small group of patients that cannot perform well.
So the question is that do you need to schedule a time that they do it at the home monitoring, or can they just pick it up and do it themselves? What would you advise, Alberto?
You can, so right now, you just prescribe the test and the patient runs the test whenever they want, right? And once the test is finished, then the doctor can see the report. We are in the process now of automating, because now we have more patients, where we are in the process of automating that, so the doctor can actually schedule different tests for different days, and then we send reminders to the patient so we can have a good flow of data.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Is this we get to end on this one, huh?
Well, for all you guys that are listening to this webinar, there is a special offer, but the regular price of the Visual S, it's $8,500. That's the basic price, which we have been trying to keep it that low because I want most of you guys been using the technology. Most of our doctors, they pay the device in 2 months, if not some of them even earlier, but in no more than 3 months they pay off the device. There's also some tax.
When you Alberto, when you say the device, you mean the headset? Does it come with the tablet?
The entire platform, everything.
Okay.
Everything, it's $8,500. There is also a membership that is optional, but so far every single doctor have jumped into it because it allows the doctor to stay tuned, stay updated, upgraded. If the device, remember, the main value proposition of our group is efficiency. So if you have a problem, you text us. We don't need to hear you. You text us, right? And we remotely access the unit. If we cannot fix remotely the unit, we ship a new one, and you send us that back. We don't need to send a technician to your office, and you don't need to wait a week for that technician to arrive, and now you lose a week of productivity, right? No, it's you get a new device and you keep going. That membership includes a protection plan that includes not only any malfunction, but also if there is a physical damage, no question asked, and after a very small deductible, we send you a new one. So we are making in a way that it is way more productive, it is way more efficient, and they love it. We have scientific programs also with every single doctor interested in. We want to create a family, and I'm not joking. We want to create a family because we believe that the only way to really build a good product for you is if you are involved in the process. So if you have any idea, questions, please don't hesitate. Thank you very much, Dr. Rob. Thank you very much.
Shane, you want to take us home?
Do you mind, Shane? Because that's something that I skipped, and because in our first webinar we made the announcement, but I forgot there might be doctors that are not familiar or they don't know. We partner with Keeler. We're very proud, and it's have been an awesome journey working with this group of people. They're awesome. They are a hard worker. We love them, and we hope to work with them forever. So they are also there for anything you need. So please, you can either approach them on us. We're a single family, and we're going to take care of you.
Thank you, Alberto. I wanted to thank everybody for joining tonight. Dr. Mark Blumenstein, Dr. Alberto Gonzalez, thank you so much for speaking this evening, and thank everybody for joining us. For a demo or more information, please reach out to Keeler. You have our information here on the slide, the phone number for the office. Please reach out to your Keeler USA territory representative. You can also reach out to me personally via email. I have placed my email there on the screen. And with that, I'd like to thank again everybody for coming. And that is our time. So please take care and stay safe.